Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salli wa sallam ala sayyidil awwalin wal akhirin nabiyyina Muhammadan wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barak wa sallam. All praise are due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad, master of the first and the last, on his family, his companions, and all those who call to his way and practice his sunnah to the day of judgment. As to what follows, my beloved brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is the second day in our program where we are looking at survival to revival. We are trying to understand what is happening to us in a world that is going through tremendous changes. And we are all aware of the great crises that are happening around the planet. We are all aware of the very critical situation that Muslims find themselves in. We need to look at history, look at ourselves, look at the revelation. And this is an exercise which is being done by more and more people to try to take us from a point where we are just surviving to where we are reviving Islam in our lives and in our nation. The Muslim world today is an amazing place. Despite what negative images are being projected about the Muslim world, the reality is Muslims make up over 26% of the Earth's population. We have strategic positions. We are rich in natural resources. Over 50% of the mineral wealth in the world lies under our countries. We have strategic positions, strategic waterways, strategic mountain passes, strategic deserts. If you look at the Muslim world as an entity itself, it is in a very critical place. And in most cases, when you find the great confusions and confrontations that are going on in the world today, if you look under the ground, then you'll see a mineral deposit that is there. You'll see something that's really the bottom line of the conflict. Okay? But to understand ourselves, we need to recognize, we need to be honest with ourselves. Because with 26% of the Earth's population, people of all colors, all nationalities, right? Our countries have huge standing armies, just waiting for the command from their leaders. And we are a young nation. Some estimates show that a great percentage, over 43% of the Muslim world is under 25 years old. So we are a nation of the future. There are many nations that what they call graying nations, where their population is more than 50 years and above, but our nation is a young nation. And so you can say in a sense that it is a nation of the future. We also have excellent educational resources. We have our original text, the Quran, which is intact. We have the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We have thousands of books. So it's not about information. And we even have some of the richest people on the face of the planet Earth. And some of our leaders are so rich that you can't even put them in the top 10 rich people on Earth. Right? Because the national product of the country is their money. Right? So you can't quantify it in a bank account. So it's not about the amount of wealth, because the wealth is actually there. We also have a great history, a history of power and respect. And you can say to a certain extent that the European Renaissance, where Europe came out of its dark ages, you can actually attribute this to the Muslims who were living in Spain and in other parts of the world, who gave a jump start to the planet. Also, we're growing large in number. Despite the problems, we are still growing rapidly. And you'll be shocked to see percentages of Muslims. Toronto, where I'm coming from, you think of Canada and you think of the cold and maple leaves. In the GTA, 10% of the population is Muslim. 10%. of Toronto. There's over 400 places where you can make salat and Jum'ahs. 400. And is growing by leaps and bounds all over the world. In places even like Paris and Marseille. And when you think about France, you think about a place, it's a terrible place for Muslims. You know what the reality of Paris and Marseille is? 50% of their young people, 25 or under, 50% are Muslims. In Paris and in Marseille, in Belgium and Holland, 1 out of every 2 children born in a hospital is a Muslim. 50% of the children born in Holland and in Belgium, this is Europe, the heart of Europe, they're Muslims. So it's not about numbers. But at the same time, if we're honest with ourselves, we also have some of the poorest countries in the world. And we are feeling frustration. We're feeling frustration about what is happening in the Uyghur situation in China, in Palestine, and now Kashmir. Kashmir is in lockdown. And the world is literally watching this, right? And they're not moving to deal with it. So there's a natural frustration that Muslims feel. And in this light, again, this is to leave you with certain information that you can keep. I searched to see where would there be something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would speak about our condition. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed in Surah Al-Hashr, and this is in the 18th and 19th part of this. Allah told us, and these are oft repeated verses, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wal tanzur nafsun ma qaddamat lighad wattaqullah inna Allaha khabirun bima ta'malun wa la takunu kalladhina nasullaha fa ansahum anfusahum ulaika humul fasiqun. Okay? So Allah has revealed, O you who believe, have the consciousness of Allah, and let every soul look to what it has put forward for tomorrow and fear Allah. Surely Allah is well aware of all that you do. And be not as those who forgot Allah, and so He made them forget themselves. Surely they are the disobedient ones. And so in this verse, the divine gem of wisdom, where it is saying, right, be not as those who forgot Allah, so He caused them to forget themselves. They have wealth, but yet there's poverty. They have large standing armies, but they're frustrated on the ground. So there's something fundamentally wrong that we have to deal with. Allah told us, and it's very clear within our text, what needs to happen. And in this light, again, the Quran speaks very clearly, and Allah said, because we're crying for change, we want economic change, some want an Islamic state, some want Islamic fashion, some want Islamic banking system. They're crying for change. But Allah said, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change that which is in themselves. So until an internal change comes, you cannot expect to gain the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we cannot put this necessarily on the kings and the powerful people. It goes down to the individuals, to all of us. And this is important, because the Prophet, peace be upon him, started by himself, and then only his wife, and only a few. And within a short period of time, Islam had spread to the 4 corners of the earth. So it's not about large numbers. There's something critical that we need to look at. One of the great scholars from the African continent, Sidi Ahmed Zarruq, rahimahullah, from the city of Fez, when he was asked about the Quran, sincerity to the Quran, and he told the people, تحسين تلاوته وتدبر آياته وإتباع أوامره. You want to be sincere to the Quran, then there's 3 things. بِتَحْسِينِ تِلَاوَتِهِ. And that is to recite it in the proper way. Secondly, وَتَدَبُّرْ آيَاتِهِ. And that is to reflect upon the verses. And last, إِتْبَعْ أَوَامِرِهِ. Follow it. So it's not enough to read it beautiful. Even to think about it, it has to be implemented. The Quran was revealed to be implemented, to be put into our lives. And in the Quran, there are many important stories. You know what the scholars recently found out? And it was known before, but it's been brought out publicly. 1/3 of the Quran is qasas. It's stories, history. 1/3 of the Quran. The Quran is not just a book saying, don't do this, do this. No, it is giving us the stories of those who came before us. And it is also giving us amazing stories in the natural world in order that we would think. In Surah Yusuf, verse 111, Allah tells us, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ إِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. That in their stories are lessons for those who would reflect. So the stories have lessons. And in thinking about the position of Muslims, the condition of Muslims, I ran across some chapters in the Quran, which many people sort of they just go past it. They don't give it a lot of weight. But there is some amazing information which directly applies to us. Remember, we're a mass of people. We're all over the place. We have masjids in all the major capitals. We have wealth. We have armies. We have scientists. Everything is there, but something on the inside is missing. There's a spark. It's like a beautiful vehicle ready to drive, but there's no petrol in it. You look good, but you're going nowhere. What is that thing on the inside? What is the examples we need? The Quran is giving us amazing examples. And I want to share with them, there's 3 actually that we've looked at in details. And that is Surah An-Naml, the chapter of the ants. Surah An-Nahl, which is the chapter of the bees. And Surah Al-Ankabut, the chapter of the spider. So these 3 insects actually have an amazing story to tell. It's an amazing story. And so we want to look tonight at the miracle of the ant. And I'm sure that you are familiar with ants. In many parts of Bermuda, you obviously have ants as your neighbors. In Cape Town, South Africa, I lived in South Africa for a long time. The ants in Africa, like in South America, they're aggressive. They are aggressive. If you're in your house, if you put down, if a crumb falls down somewhere, then some ant is going to see it, and suddenly there's a line of ants. You have that here in Bermuda? There's a line, and they're organized, right? And they're moving it out, right? And so, in looking at the lives of the ants, we go to an amazing revelation. And because of time, I'm going to go right to the important section. But we'll look at the first part, where it is saying, "Indeed, we granted knowledge to Dawood and Sulaiman, and they said in acknowledgement, all praises are for Allah who has made us to excel over many of his faithful servants." So Prophet Dawood, David, and Prophet Sulaiman, Solomon, may Allah give them peace, they were given a special preference. Okay? Dawood was succeeded by Sulaiman, who said, "O people, we have been taught the language of birds and given everything we need. This indeed is a great privilege." Okay? Now, this is the shahid coming here. And the Quran is saying, وَحُشِرَ لِسُلَيْمَانُ وَجُنُودُهُ مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ وَالطَّيْرِ فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ حَتَّى إِذَا أَتَوْا عَلَى وَادِ النَّمْلِ قَالَتْ نَمْلَةٌ يَا أَيُّهَا النَّمْلُ ادْخُلُوا مَسَاكِنَكُمْ لَا يَحْتِمَنَّكُمْ سُلَيْمَانُ وَجُنُودُهُ وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. Suleiman's forces and birds were gathered to him in perfect rows. Suleiman's forces included birds. He could actually communicate with the birds. It included insects. It included the jinn, which are creations made from smokeless fire. Nobody has ever had this position before. Even Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, when the shaitan, who's jinni as well, he captured him and tied him up, and eventually he let him go, and he said, I do not want to rival the kingdom of Suleiman. That's something special for him. Now, the Quran is speaking, and it says, and when they came across a valley of ants, an ant warned, O ants, go quickly into your homes, so Suleiman and his armies do not crush you unknowingly. So the shahid here is the huge army of Suleiman is moving, and one of the ants, and Suleiman has some connection, one of the ants, you would think you see a huge army, you run away. The ant did not think of herself. The ant contacted the other ants. It communicated with other ants before herself. And the reason why I say she, this is part of the miracle of the Quran. You see here, in the Arabic it says namla. Namla is feminine, okay? And scientists have found out that the ants who are doing most of the work around, that are all around, they're female. Just think about this. How could a man living in the Arabian desert 1400 years ago know that the ants, most of the ants that are feminine? How does he know this? This is part of the miracle of the Quran when it is speaking about the ant colony. And what it shows immediately, she did not think of herself. She thought about the other ants. And so one of the key things about ants, which is important, and this, think about the Muslim world at the same time, the ant does not think by itself. All of the ants in existence, all of them in their groups, they think as one mind. They're one mind. And scientists have even looked at the human body, that we're made up of cells, but these cells cooperate with each other. And it forms into an entity. And so we are also entities, right? And in the case of the ants, they actually are able to think as one mind. What is special about the ants? The ant is the most successful creature on the face of the planet Earth. Some say, if you look at all living beings who have ever lived, we're talking about people, animals, insects, the ant is the most successful creature that has ever existed. That little ant that you think is nothing, right? That ant represents unity, divine unity. There are over 12,000 known species of ants. 12,000. They make up about 1/6 to 1/4 of the entire animal biomass. In other words, if you take all the animals together, as a biological entity, they make up about between 1/6 to 1/4 of the biomass. That is equal to human beings. For every human being, every one of us, there are 20 million ants for every person. Think about this, right? And I'm not saying this to make you afraid of ants. but understand the reality now. There's probably some moving around here as well. 20 million. And the ants, they can actually form, a colony, a massive colony. And within these massive colonies, it can go up to 10 million. Can be in one colony. There are super colonies of ants that can actually reach billions. That means billions of ants are thinking together as one mind. One mind. So all of these creatures there are one mind. If you think about the Muslim world, 26% of the earth's population, if we were thinking as one mind, we would not have the situation that we are living in today. It would be completely different. And if you look at the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his companions, they were thinking beyond their color, beyond their nationality, beyond their race. And it's an amazing thing that the ants do. One mind. And if you look at the picture here, you see that there? Those are all ants. And they're all together. Hajj is an amazing thing because you get a huge amount of human beings together and they don't jump and kill each other. But the ants, what they do normally in a normal day, right, is amazing. And their society is an amazing society. And they communicate with each other as one mind. If you see the ants here in this picture here, the communication, I remember in South Africa that something fell on the ground and there was a line of ants coming one way and a line coming the other way. Two lines. Every time an ant passed another ant, they touched tentacles, the antennas. It's like they gave salams, right? So they would not pass another ant without giving salams. And the ants are also giving to each other. They are also communicating with each other. The ants can throw out chemicals from their body that describe to the ant what he's going to meet when he goes down the road. And they communicate. And you know what was interesting? Because I sat there one day for about an hour watching these ants, right? And one time there was one ant that was coming one way, the other way, they do. Then three ants came. And they were moving as a group. And one ant was coming the other way. So the ant that was coming the other way, he gave salams to the first ant with his antenna, and the second two, he nodded. It's like what we call, he was the Amir of the Jamaat. Right? There was one person who was the leader of the Jamaat, right? So he gave him full salams, and the rest of the Jamaat, he nodded to them. Okay? But he paid attention to everybody in the group, right? He didn't just focus on the leader. He paid attention to everybody in the group. So this is a communication that they naturally have amongst themselves. The Prophet ﷺ said, the time would come when there would be a salam al-khas. He called it a special salam. A salam al-khas, and that is that the person would give salam only to his brother or sister or his cousin or somebody who looks like him. And you will see this in some communities that have different people. It happens sometimes, unfortunately, on Eid Day, that when people want to give salams, they look for someone who looks like them or their cousin, and then they give them salams. Somebody else, they just sort of walk by them. Okay? And the Prophet predicted this. He said, as-salam al-khas, that this would be coming. And it's a dangerous thing as we go toward the day of resurrection. So with this strength, with this unity that the ants have, they are able to make some amazing achievements. The ants live on every single landmass on Earth except for one place. Can anybody guess what that might be? There's only one place on Earth where ants do not live. I'll give you a hint. the name ant is in the name. Antarctica. We're pronouncing it Antarctica. I don't think that they originally pronounced it like that. But it's interesting that the ant is in there, right? That's the only place on earth that the ants cannot live, right? The South Pole. Everywhere else, including the North, there's ants. Every place on earth. This is an amazing thing. Okay, and this is part of their success from what they have done. And they respect each other. They respect each other. There are worker ants. There's the queen, right? There's drones, male drones. Okay? There's even fighter ants. Ants whose antennas are bigger. They are like mujahideen, right? They're like stronger than the other ants, right? They're front lines. Okay? But everybody respects each other. And this is an amazing thing, right? And the queen gets respect from all the ants. And you know what's amazing about their colony? It's done by instinct. The queen does not have to go to charm school to learn how to be a queen. You know, our royalty, they must learn how to eat and learn how to sit and everything. No, instinct. In the colony itself, there is unity, equality. You don't need a socialist rebellion. You know the socialists want to fight the bourgeoisie and the workers and all that? You don't need a rebellion in the colony. Rebellion is futile. There is no rebellion within their colonies because there's perfect equality amongst them. It is instinctually done. It's not forced on anybody by somebody else. They work together as a team. This is what we call, remember, operational unity. That they understand the strength of the other ants. Some are stronger that can lift. Look at this operational unity here. The ants came to an empty place. They couldn't get across. So the other ants put their bodies together. And they went arm in arm and they made a bridge. So their brothers and sisters could cross the bridge. Selflessness. They are completely selfless. And if you think about the companions of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they were selfless. And it is reported in the Battle of Mu'tah that one of the Sahaba, he was mortally wounded. After the battle, they went to him, and he's wounded, he's losing blood, and yet very thirsty. And so he cried out for water. And they came to him with water, and he heard his brother also crying for water. And that thirst that a person gets with loss of blood is tremendous thirst. He said, give it to my brother. They went to the other person, the other Muslim. Right? He heard the hippo, right? The rhinoceros, the elephant. The ant, pound for pound, may be the strongest creature on earth. One ant can lift 50 times his weight. 50 times his own weight, one ant can lift. That's like a human being picking up like a 10-ton truck, putting it on his back. Today they would make him a superhero, right? And give him a mask. 50 times his own weight. One ant. But does it make the ant arrogant? No. They're humble to each other. And this is one of the amazing things about their unity. Look at the things that they're able to do. And the success that they have. It is their humility. They respect each other. They are humble with each other. And they recognize the collective body of the ants. And when you work in a jama'ah, as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, he said, Yadullah ma'al jama'ah, the hand of Allah is with the jama'at. Look at this. There was a flood in South America. This brown thing right here, on whether you can see it properly, these are ants here. These are all the ants came together, and using their bodies and sticks or whatever, they created a boat. And they floated down the river because of the unity that they had amongst themselves. And so it is this amazing unity. And there was a group of ants, there was an experiment that was done on ants in Argentina. And the ants, again, like I say, in South America, there's some aggressive ants in South America. They have a red ant in South America. I don't believe you have that here in Bermuda, because this place is too small for that. They have a red ant. When these ants come, all you can do is move out the way. Because they will come in millions, and they will eat everything in sight. They will move everything. This is in the Amazon region. Okay? And in Argentina, where they have these aggressive ants, they set up a maze. It's a maze of lanes, right? And they directed the ants toward the maze. And as you move down one path, there's an obstacle in the path. And you move another one, and the obstacle comes down. And you move another one, and they were testing the ants. And what they found out is that the more obstacles that were in front of the ants is the more polite they became with each other. Think about this. And think about human beings. Some years ago, there was a blackout in New York City. Maybe some of the elder generation remember this. There was a blackout in New York. All the lights are off in New York City. And people went crazy that night. And when the lights went back on, they found stores robbed. They found the place in confusion. Right? Anytime some difficulty comes, people who do not have character, right, lose it. The selflessness. The Argentinian ants, the more difficult it became, is the more polite they were. The more humble they were with each other. And this is an amazing example to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created many types of ants. There's a super ant that hit Texas some years ago. I don't know what finally happened, but these ants were so amazing that when you spray the poison on it, after a short period of time, they adapt to the poison and they continue on. And there was one particular group of ants that they were attacking anything that was electronic. So they were attacking computers, they were attacking the electrical system. It set the place in confusion. From the ants, there are many lessons for the Muslim world today. Number one is that the ants are in total submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they do it naturally. Remember what we were talking about today in Jummah, and we spoke about Ibrahim alayhi salam. Inna Ibrahima kana ummatan qanitan lillah. Okay? Hanifan wa lam yakun min al-mushrikeen. Ibrahim was a nation unto himself. See, one mind, right? Qanitan lillah. He was in complete submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was pure, and he did not associate partners with Allah. Total submission. Next, excellent character, politeness, hard work, accepting other people. The male and the female ants, they're not fighting each other. The females are actually the strongest. They're doing the work all over the place. The drones sit around and they just get the queen pregnant. There's no fighting amongst male and female. They respect each other. The fighter ants respect the smaller ones. Politeness and hard work. Another point which is very crucial, and this is where the verse came in, selflessness. The ant, when Suleiman's army was coming, she did not care about herself, but she cared about the Jamaat, the rest of the people. That's the way we have to think. When we think about Muslims here in Bermuda or wherever we are, if you see a Muslim brother or sister in trouble, right, you're in trouble. That's your brother and sister. In Toronto, we have all of the nations together. And we used to run programs. I was leading this one masjid for a while that had all the nationalities. If there was a program in Palestine, if there was a problem in Masjid al-Aqsa, and we had a program, then that evening, most of the people there would be Palestinians. If there was a problem in Afghanistan, then most of the people would be Afghans. If there's a problem in Somalia, then the majority would be Somali. But the reality is, thinking in one mind would mean that Muslims who are trapped in Kashmir right now, that influences me. I have to think about this. And that's what thinking about one mind is. If Muslims think about one mind, you would not have the concentration camps. You would not have the humiliation that is coming to this woman. Operational, humility and strength. Humility and strength. Even though the person has strength, remember they add 50 times, he's humble. Right? This is one of the greatest ways of strength. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, the strong person is not the one who's a good fighter. You know, normally you think the strong person got muscles and he's a good fighter. He said, no, alladhi yamliku nafsahu indal ghadab. The strong person is the one who controls himself when he's angry. Think about that. And when you think about martial arts, right? People join the karate club and then they get a white belt and then they get a yellow belt. So now he can kick and he can punch. And that person goes out, he's looking for trouble now. He's a karate expert. That means he doesn't know anything. The master who has black belt 6 dan, who has mastered the arts, very rarely gets into a fight. They avoid fighting. Even you push him, he might walk. But if you back him into a corner, you won't know what hit you. Because his strength, the strength is in the confusion, he controls himself. That's real strength. So it's not based upon the size of the body, right, or the size of the muscle. It is an internal thing. The essence of strength is an internal thing. Humility and strength. Also, recognizing other Muslims. Giving salams to everybody. Remember the ants now, don't forget their example. They give salam to every ant that passes them. Or if it's in a group, they'll recognize the leader of the group and they'll nod to the rest of the sisters or brothers, whoever's in the Jamaat that's moving on. Okay? And these are examples for us, right? The example of operational unity, especially in the time of crisis. See these animals here? It's a flood, right? It's operational unity. The rat has nothing to do with the frog. But in this case, they're going to survive together. We are in a survival situation as Muslims throughout this planet. And it's time that we understand operational unity. Thinking in one mind. This is what Hajj is supposed to do. When a person completes this, if they're able to do it, and you stand in a Jamaat, this is what Jamaats do. You make Jamaat prayer, you're in a group. You make Jum'ah prayer, right? You're in a group, right? Jum'ah is Jama'ah. It's a group. You make Eid prayer. Eid prayer, in the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, everybody would go outside the city. They would all pray together in a musalla. Everybody. So it gives you group consciousness. See what Islam is doing to us? It's conditioning us to think as one mind. And the greatest unity that you could be in happens on the pilgrimage. And this is where you will see this massive group that is there. The ants think positive. No matter what is happening in front of them. Remember when the Argentinian ants were blocked off? What did they do? They became polite with each other, humble, and they figured out a solution. So even though it gets dark, difficulty comes, that's the time when we need to become humble, patient, connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And move on as a group. These are some of the crucial lessons that we have. The ants have real courage. Okay, and this is an amazing statement that is made. It said, courage isn't always a lion's roar. It is also the silence of an ant, working patiently, persistently, and never giving up. See the Muslim Ummah now? Patient, persistent, no matter what the circumstance, we continue to work for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We never give up. That is the Ummah, and that is the reason why, after the mercy of Allah, we have persisted up until today. And so, these are some of the examples of the amazing ant. And we can only pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would give us this feeling, this understanding, and would give us that one mind, that unity that we need in order to move from darkness into light, in order to really understand our potential, the great potential that exists in the Muslim world, which ultimately will be something which will bless the whole world. Because remember, as I said in the beginning, when Europe was in its dark ages, the lights were out. The Muslims in Cordoba, the Muslims had the largest city on earth in the year 1000. There were over 1 million people in Cordoba in Spain. There were thousands of houses, 900 public baths, lighted streets in any direction, running water. It took Paris and London 700 years to reach that level. And you know what they had also in Al-Andalus, in Spain? Convivencia. That is where Muslim, Christian, and Jew were living together. They lived together. And the great Khalifa Abdurrahman al-Dakhil, rahimahullah, who was really the one who established the Andalusian leadership, nobody was forced to be a Muslim. No Christian was forced to be a Muslim. No Jewish person forced to be a Muslim. Education was free for everybody. This is what is called convivencia. It is people, that's what Islamic society will provide for the world, inshallah. How we can live together, how we can survive in this world. The Quran gives us the example of the ant, the most successful creature that has ever lived on the face of the planet. So I leave you with these thoughts, and I ask Allah to have mercy on me and you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We want to open up the floor for any feedback that anybody has.
Reminded that you have books for sale. Yes, books for sale.
Yeah, there is following this series that we're doing. I developed a series of hadiths. This is called the 40 Hadith of Islamic Ibadah. This is not Imam al-Nawawi's book. This is a famous 40 Hadith of Imam al-Nawawi. This follows the pattern of Imam al-Nawawi's book, because there are other books of 40 Hadith, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Ibn Mundir. This one is dealing with our situation. And these are the proofs. Many of the things that you hear me saying are inside of this book. It's a methodology of revival. How do you revive ourselves? And the authentic traditions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that help us in the different circumstances that we are in. So I brought a few of these anyway. And for those who are not able to purchase this, from my website, which is www.hakimquick, HAKIMQUICK.com, hakimquick.com, right? For those who are onto social media, right? Also public Facebook, right? This is a new generation. I was born long before this, right? And I told my students before, I was born in BC. And they said, what is BC? Cavemen? And I said, no, I was born before computers. They said, before, but you know, the computers only came in the 90s, right? This is how much we've evolved, right? It's only the 90s that they start bringing in these huge things, right? And, but then I even say I was born in BFB, I was born before Facebook. But I joined the Facebook, alhamdulillah, and things got connected. So you can come on to our Facebook page. Right now there's about 797,000 likes that are on this page. So you can become part of this public figure and also part of this group if you're into this social media. So I want to open up the floor for any questions. Anybody may have any feedback or any questions. The floor is open. Yes.
You're going to cover Nahl and Ankabut over next day or two?
Inshallah, this is actually a workshop with all three.
Oh, okay.
But I'm thinking about possibly at Masjid Quba, because tomorrow's a public talk. But Masjid Quba, I may deal with the Ankabut. Because the Ankabut is dealing with social problems, family problems. And I think we have a lot of that. Male-female problems, right? And this Ankabut is a serious study of this issue. So inshallah, since you mentioned it, if we have a setup, we have a PowerPoint setup, then inshallah we'll also look at the amazing Ankabut. The Surah An-Nahl, the bees we'll leave for later on. The bees are important too because, you know, the honey, right? Healthy living, right? Positive thinking. There's a lot of things in the life of the bee as well. Okay? But for our communities, I think the Ankabut is an important one also to study. Now, any other questions? Sister? Yes, sister?
So you mentioned ayah 19 in Surah Hashr.
Yeah.
And you said those who forget
Yeah, so what it is doing, like I was thinking about this, about all the potential that the Muslim world has, right? Money, position, armies, and whatever. This verse says, do not be as those who forgot Allah. He will make them forget themselves. So you can literally have all of this potential, and your money is not going for the poverty in the nation. It's only to build another palace. Your armies are not to help the weak, and you know, it is only suppressing your own people. You literally forget about yourself. And this can happen to any of us. That you literally forget the blessings that Allah gave to all of us. Sometimes it's easy for us, if you forget Allah, He'll make you forget yourself, and that is a state of ghafla, nisyan, of forgetfulness. It's a dangerous position to be in.
How can one realize if there are any?
And that is to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is number one, by implementing Islam. Remember what I said about the Quran. Don't just read it. Think about it and practice it. So once, you know, when we read the Quran, we put it into our own life. Right? When we think about the things in Islam, it's not just a nice system that maybe will be practiced in the future. We do it. So by remembering Allah in all that we do, then we become the living example of Islam. Now, there's another sister, had another question? Sister? Another question? Okay, floor is open. Any other questions, feedback anybody has? Floor is open. Yes, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I really appreciated the emphasis that you place on the basis for unity, which is respect and equality. I think is what I've heard, that the emphasis that you place today. And I've heard a lot of Muslims talk around the world about unity, but very rarely is the discussion of equality and mutual respect and the doing away of superiority complexes talked about as the basis for unity. We hear oftentimes, actually, the argument for unity is used as though it is mutually exclusive whenever we talk about the human dignity that Allah has placed in every human being. When Allah says, لَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا كُلُّ بَنِي آدَمَ, that usually the response to that is, well, brother, we should be unified. We need to be together.
Right.
And I think what I've heard from you today, in your example of using the ants, is that when you say politeness to each other, and that they treat each other with respect and equality. And that if we don't have equality, and if we don't do away with these superiority complexes, we have no basis for unity.
That's right, and this is something which is not a theoretical thing. This is something which, when it's practiced, Muslims are successful. And the example is the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, with people from different classes, different nations, whatever, and they had amazing success. But when division started to come in, when Arab versus non-Arab, light skin, dark skin, Persian, Turkish, when all the different nations start looking at themselves first as a tribe, and then they start looking at their brother or sister, then division comes in, and authority is taken away from us, even to the point where we can become humiliated. And that's the condition you see of Muslims today. With so much position, so much potential, but it's not there. Right? It's, alhamdulillah, it's changing now. There's more and more people who are waking up. It's breaking down, and the more we are involved in this, I believe, is the more success we'll get on it. Is there another comment to make?
Yeah, just reiterating that alhamdulillah, the respect for the leaders, respect for leadership, respect for the leadership that the ants have in their colonies,
That's
their,
right.
the nations that they have built. That in order for us to have unity, we have to have that same
That's right.
behavior.
And this is important because, leadership, the question of leadership, many people look at leadership as power. I'm stronger than him, I'm the leader. Right? But no, in the example of the Prophet ﷺ, Sayyid al-Qawm khadimuhum, that the leader of a people is the servant of the people. So the more leadership you have is actually the more responsibility you have. That's what a leader is supposed to be. But the concept of king and servants, of sultan, this is what has caused the confusion in our political entity. We have a meritocracy. Our leadership is based on merit. Who's the one that deserves to be the leader? It's not whose family is special. It's not who has more guns and power than somebody else. But it's the one who is, developed for this. And the queen is natural leader. They accept the queen. They have no problem. They're not going to. Do you ever hear? Ever have a socialist rebellion against the queen? Right? The French Revolution, where you cut off the heads of all the bourgeoisie. That never happens, because they deal with each other. They give the rights and respect to each other. And maybe that means that one is built a little different than the other. The fighter ants are not like some of the other ants, but they respect the other ant. And they will give salams to the other ant. And this is crucial for us today. This will change us from divided little communities into one mind. And that is what is called with the ants a super colony, like in South America. The red ants. They have a super colony. And when they come, you just move out the way. That's all you can do.
One other observation that I've seen just studying the ants is that when one gets sick or one passes, they look after the other.
That's right. This is a good point, that when one gets sick, they take care of him, or one dies, they take care of their dead. And that's important. That's why with our janazah, that if somebody passes away in our community, that janazah has to be done. This is called fard kifaya. That means that somebody in this ummah, somebody has to make that janazah for that person. If nobody makes janazah for a Muslim, then every Muslim in that whole community is in sin. Right? That's the concept. Okay? So the ants have that, instinctually they have it. Naturally, right? We have a struggle, we have a bad side and a good side. So Allah gave us a book, right? Allah gave us guidance, sent a prophet to us to show us the right way. With his companions to show us the right way. Right? Because we got a bad side. Nafsa amara bisu. Always talking negative things. Right? So a struggle is going on constantly with us. right? But when we follow our good side and the examples that we have, we were able to overcome it, inshallah. Any other questions before? How much time we have before Salah? No?
About to iterate.
It's in?
Yeah, we can take some questions.
Okay, we'll take the last questions. Yes.
Just to really, again, we have a situation here years ago, and I emailed you about you couldn't get your body from a penalty because there was a dispute over whether he was Muslim or not Muslim. And then it was established that he did take Shahada. So there couldn't be three bodies. It's upon us to still have that janazah for that body, even if we can't get the body.
Yeah, it is. There is a thing which is called, I don't know the exact situation that you have, the details, but there is a thing called Salatul Janazah lil-Ghaib. And that is doing janazah for an absent person. And it was established in the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ when the great Najashi, the Negus, the king of Ethiopia, when he passed away, he had accepted Islam. And the Prophet ﷺ was informed by the angel Jibreel. And he lined up the Sahaba and he said, make janazah, your brother has died. He didn't have anybody left in Ethiopia because they made hijrah, they left Ethiopia. And so they made janazah lil-Ghaib. So whenever we know that there was a Muslim who could not gain to have the janazah prayer, then it is permissible, it is encouraged that we do a janazah prayer. You will line up the same way you do for a janazah prayer. You will mention the person's name, right? And then you will do this janazah prayer, as though the person's body is there. If you're doing it for the person who has passed, it is encouraged, that we do that, because it is fard kifaya to make janazah. Okay, so with this, I think we're going to close, and inshallah we have another major session coming, Masjid Quba. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless this community and bring us together and give us this understanding to give us successful in this life and the hereafter. I leave you with these thoughts, and I ask Allah to have mercy on me and you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.